Welcome to r/entitled people, where we share stories from your lives about people who think the rules don't apply to them, and they should get what they want. Thank you, friends, for subscribing to the channel, and for so many likes. And today we have 3 great stories, so subscribe, hit the like button, and let's begin. The first story. The entitled mom is threatening to fire me. I don't even work there. The second story. Quitting the trailer manufacturing odyssey. A tale of skill, recognition, and a company's own demise. The third story. Confrontation with entitled guest over excessive breakfast consumption. The first story is Attack of the Entitled Planet. So I play a lot of D&D as a hobby, and I love to DM games on a regular basis. Unfortunately, I live in a small Midwestern town, so I rarely get people for private games. Luckily for me, the game shop in town hosts Adventurers Leagues, which is an organized campaign group developed and ran by Wizards of the Coast, the company behind Dungeons & Dragons. Without any alternatives, I started DMing AL games at this game shop. I've been doing it for years and always have had fun. About a week ago, I wanted to start a new private group. Because I was bored with experienced players, I decided I wanted to get people who were new to the game. So I put up flyers around town saying I was looking for people who wanted to learn to play D&D. After a week of people applying and interviewing, I decided on 5 people to make up my party. The party consisted of a barbarian, a wizard, a paladin, a ranger, and a rogue. Most of them were in their late teens or early 20s, except for the rogue who was a kid around the age of 12. I set our first session for the next week. Considering this was their first ever time playing, I decided to do something special. When I texted each of them the date of the first session, I also asked them about their favorite color. When the day of the first session came, I went to the game shop early and bought each of my players a $4 set of Chess X dice in their favorite color. When the players came in, they were happy and grateful, except for Rogue. Rogue looked at his dice and got a disgusted look on his face. I noticed this but continued on with the session. But all throughout the session, he was very standoffish and was very unenthusiastic. This started to become a bit of a problem. So when we came to a break, I pulled Rogue aside and asked him what was wrong. Rogue: I don't like my dice. Me: okay, what didn't you like about them? Rogue: they're ugly and I don't like the color. Now, to be fair, these dice were pale green with yellow accents to them, so I have to agree they were not the most attractive dice. Because I felt like I made a judgment error, I decided to rectify the situation. Me: okay, well how about after this session we go over and pick out a set that you like? Rogue: really? Me: yeah, I don't want you to hate your dice, but I'm gonna need you to be engaging with the group. Rogue agreed and his mood changed considerably. We continued with the session with no problems. When the session came to a close, Rogue jumped out of his chair and ran straight to the dice. After I packed up my stuff and quickly chatted with some of the other players, I met up with Rogue. However, when I approached him, I noticed he had already picked out a set of dice. A $50 set of pewter, metal dice. Me: bro, I ain't buying you those. Rogue: but these are the ones I want. Me: I know, but those are $50. Rogue: but you said I can get whatever set I like. I like these. Me: dude, I was expecting you to pick a set of cheap dice. These are just too expensive. I'm still willing to get you dice, just not ones that expensive. Rogue thought about it and got my point. He begrudgingly put down the metal dice and apologized to me. We then spent a good 10 minutes picking out a set of reasonably priced dice. He settled on a nice green and black set of $8 Chess X dice. Once that was settled, he thanked me and we left. Now, I hope this was going to be the end of the story. Unfortunately, as I've stated in the past, God hates me and wants to prove it. So a week passes and I'm back at the game shop setting up for the next session. After I finished setting up, I noticed I had some time before my players showed up, so I decided to kill some time by talking with one of the employees. Suddenly, in the middle of our conversation, I felt a disturbance. A shift in gravity caused my body to feel like it was being pulled into something. The air smelled of fried chicken and sulfur. I knew in my heart that something wicked was coming. Entranced by curiosity's seductive power, I turned to look at what diabolical force was approaching. What my eyes saw was a short yet extremely obese woman wearing a muumuu and sporting a haircut that said, "I want to speak to your CEO." And she was glaring at me with the anger of 1,000 beholders. From behind her, I could make out surprisingly a familiar shape. It was Rogue. It suddenly dawned on me that this was his mother. RM: are you the guy who runs the Dungeons & Dragons game? Me: yes. She then rushed towards me with speed I didn't think was possible for her. Within seconds, she was right in my face. RM: my boy told me you were being mean to him. Me: how so? RM. He told me you wouldn't get him the set of dice he wanted. Me. The dice he wanted were $50. I offered to buy him a set of dice that was under $10. RM. Well, he wanted those dice and you offered to buy them for him. So buy them. Me. I'm not buying him those dice. They're $50. RM. Don't you dare try to cheat me. I know you get an employee discount. Suddenly, the employee that I was talking with chimed in. Employee. Ma'am, I can assure you that this man doesn't work here. RM. Don't you dare lie to me. I know he works here. Me. Ma'am, I don't work. Without warning, she slapped me across the face. This was no light slap. This was a Saitama level slap. Now, to his credit, Rogue tried to intervene by telling his mom to calm down and that it's no big deal. RM. I don't want any sass from you, boy. She then turned back to me. RM. Now you get my son whatever he wants or else I will have you fired. Do I make myself clear? Me. Look, lady, I don't work here and I'm not buying those dice. She then slapped me again. RM. How dare you raise your voice to me? I want to see your manager. Even though I was at my wit's end, I tried one last time to reason with her. Me. Read my lips. I don't effing work here. She then slapped me one last time. RM. Don't you dare curse in front of my son. Now, I'm not usually a confrontational guy. I typically try to keep my calm as best as I can. But after she B-slapped me a third time, something snapped in my mind which led me to say some very harsh things. Me. Listen up, you effing crazy ham planet C. I do not and have not effing worked here. I do not get an effing employee discount, and I will not effing buy your sea goblin a set of $50 effing dice. Furthermore, due to your SH actions as a parent, your son is no longer accepted at any of games. Now F off. RM looked visibly surprised and insulted. RM. I'm not leaving until I get those dice. Me. Well, it looks like you need to take your sausage fingers and stick them up your dried out S. Find the $50 that you made last night working the street corner and buying them yourself. Because that's the only way you're getting those dice. Now get the F out of my face before I slap 400 pounds off of your Ralphie May looking A. At about this time, I snap out of my temporary insanity. RM looked stunned, as if no one had spoke to her like this. Rogue's mouth was agape in disbelief, and the employee was a mixture of horrified and trying to hold back laughter. I braced myself for whatever retaliation she was about to unleash on me. Surprisingly, she grabbed her son and walked out of the game store. As soon as she did, the employee burst out laughing. Once my players arrived, I explained what ended up happening as well as why Rogue was not going to be playing with us anymore. They all had a good laugh. The second story is a slight update on the job I quit. Gather around, boys and girls. It's time for a story. So I, recently left Trailer Manufacturing Company. While I was grateful for a job outside of customer service and for their willingness to train me to weld, gratitude in either direction rarely pays the bills. I was there for a little over 2 years and really got my MIG skills down. Some of my welds were borderline art. People would stop by my station on the way to the bathroom to watch me work and ask for tips. Our safety supervisors stopped by to take pictures of my fabrication process to be used in company training. True story. We all had to go through a welding course in December of last year, and I passed all my tests on the first try. Word is that not only 4 of us did that, out of probably 80 to 100 people. Near the end of my time there, I was quite literally one of 2 people that knew how to run the plas table. The other guy being the one that trained me, but he was now running another line as well as driving a forklift due to lack of people. One day I hear that there was an opening for being the official plas table operator, work that I was already doing for a few months by then. I figured I would be the best person for it, as I was the only one that could do the work while this being a step up. They gave the position to one of our forklift operators, but they jerked him around saying they needed to find a replacement for him first. They did this for 3 months before he quit. They decided that rather than giving me the position, they'd just close it all together and gave me an excuse about how the HR guy was supposed to close it after they offered it to someone else, but didn't before he, the HR guy, quit. Of course, rather than talk to me about it at any point, my supervisor would just say, "I'll look into it," and drive off on his golf cart in hopes that I would forget. It wasn't until I cornered his boss that I got any answers. I also applied for a QA position, which I heard nothing back on, and would have applied for line lead of the GN line, my line, when my lead went to another, but they just moved someone else into it without even opening the position. A few months later, we're getting a lot of new hires. Come to find out, preppers, what we call general laborers, were getting paid more than I was. Welders getting paid significantly more. Now I believe that if a person works 40 hours a week, they should be able to make ends meet, but these welds didn't justify the pay, let alone being paid more than someone who has proven their worth as well as had a specialized skill set. I brought it up to my supervisor a few times, only to be given a generic excuse about attendance. An excuse thrown at quite literally everyone trying to get a fair pay. I wasn't even on a verbal warning at this time. As one could expect with new hires, they didn't know what to do, so their lines fell behind and the rest of us got punished for it, and had to do additional mandatory overtime. We already worked 50 hours a week. I wasn't going to have any of that, so I'd leave at my regular scheduled time. Eventually, my supervisor comes to talk to me about it, and in his generosity, he decided to drop one of my occurrence points for leaving early. I told him that since they won't pay tenured employees better, and actively avoid me regarding promotions, that I'd have no reason or desire to stay later. But he kept pushing it. I told him that if I left, nobody would be able to run the Plaz table and the line would have to shut down. Oh, we'll find someone. But how long will that take? You don't need to worry about it, we'll find someone. Well then, I'm gonna finish my shift and whatever happens, happens. And that was that. I quit with a phone call the following Monday, saying that I'm leaving the door open, but they need to pay me more. My current line lead had already put in his 2 weeks, and his last day was after I left that Thursday. The GN line would need about 10 good people to run optimally. By the time we left, they had 4. One was in and out of therapy due to a wrist injury, and was the most outspoken about wage discrepancy. One was new to welding altogether. One was a terrible welder and had a habit of throwing impact wrenches and the like at walls. And then there was the guy I trained, who's just fine but can't do all the work. Fast forward to today. Here I am at a new job and working with a lot of people that left. Trailer manufacturing company. We had a company meeting and I was talking to one that happened to be my former line lead when I intended to take that position. According to him, after I left, Trailer Manufacturing Company, they had to shut down GN production completely, and the line has since been converted into another dump line, which if true is effing hilarious. I tried to be fair. I gave them the option to retain me. I wasn't asking for so much that I could buy a mega yacht, just enough to be able to afford a roof over my and my son's heads. But they let their stupid effing pride get in the way, and now they lost the line with the biggest and most expensive trailers. Sucks to be them. The third story is abusive guest confronted about excessive breakfast consumption. Today I had the unfortunate experience of dealing with an entitled and very combative guest. This guest had stayed with us for nearly 2 weeks, with a deep room discount, and was observed more than once loading up big time on our free breakfast, depleting food for the other guests, no doubt trying to get enough food for lunch and dinner too. How cheap can one get? Really cheap, apparently. Today I observed him with a tote bag raiding our breakfast refrigerator, and decided it was time to finally speak up. I attempted to ask him politely to not take so much food, and he immediately started yelling at me and wouldn't listen to a single word as I tried to de-escalate the situation. He was trying to justify it, saying he only took a few items and he was really hungry, but that isn't what it looked like and wasn't letting me see how much he had taken. There was no having a conversation with this guy. One of the worst customers I ever had the misfortune to deal with in my 15+ years as a hotel employee. He had the nerve to accuse me of being rude and threatened to deck me for even bringing up the issue. I just don't understand this entitled mentality of some customers. Perhaps he was just bulldogging me, trying to get me to back down, but that doesn't justify the outsized reaction to a reasonable request. Needless to say, he earned a one-way trip to our DNR list. I really hate no-win situations like this. Update. Like a child, he trashed the room before he left. Housekeeping was shocked. Color me unsurprised. Thank you for watching. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel.